Of the African National Congress coming out of the 55th National Conference, Fikile Mbalula was 1,692 votes. The first Deputy Secretary General of the party, Nomvula Mokonyane, with 2,195 votes. The second Deputy Secretary General of the party, Ms. Maropene Ramokopa, with 2,373 votes. And the Treasurer General of the African National Congress coming out of 2022, Gwen Ramokopa, with 1,809 votes. It has been electric, an electric 4 days here at Nasrec in the lead up to this moment, where the party has decided on who will take the African National Congress forward over the next 5 years. And certainly so many different reactions, as you can see, high emotion on the floor from many of the leaders, and so much to talk about. Gwen Ramokopa, for instance, Treasurer General, a victory there, but she was nominated from the floor. You've got the representation of women in that top 7 of the party, Nomvula Mokonyane, Maropene Ramokopa, as well as Gwen Ramokopa as well in that party. Let's bring in Professor Tifo. This is the future of the African National Congress. So, Prof, what do you make?
Yes, indeed. That's the next 5 years. These are the people charged with the responsibility of steering the African National Congress forward. I'm happy for them. Congratulations, guys, and do better than you did yesterday. If I may just start, I said in my other life, I was a ranger, and I've learned that if you want to take a buffalo down in the jungle, you must be prepared for a good fight. But I'll stop there, lest I'm seen to be pro N1, and I'll come back to the N1 later, right? And I also said there is a possibility of him prevailing given the role played by the steady hand of Gwede Mantashe in the past 3 weeks, but in particular in this conference, and vis-a-vis the Phala saga. Good or bad, right or wrong, let's leave that to the other processes. I have my own opinions as well as far as that goes, right? And I have no doubt that when it comes to the possession of forex on your own person, probably he will be, is going to be faltered on that. Then we come to the person I had, and I would have loved to have as a deputy president, is Gwen Ramokopa. I would have definitely loved her to be there. Number 3, I'm a little uneasy with the national representation, or the spread of national representation in the top 7. It's concentrated more in Gauteng. Number 5 is more inclined towards N1 than N3 or N14, and indeed towards the coast. Yeah, right. So I have some mixed feeling in a sense. I would have loved, it is a business, not my business, but I think Gauteng is overrepresented. Lastly, they've gone far enough in bringing women on board, but it's not surprising. They've been doing fairly well in the past 10 years or 15 years on that score, and I say kudos to the ANC.
Yeah. There was the face of Dr. Zweli Mkhize as the numbers were being announced there. I mean, your thoughts on what that face for you represented? Was that a hopeful Zweli Mkhize who thought that he might come out of this victorious? And as you answer that, do you think that President Cyril Ramaphosa was sweating throughout the past 4 days?
Look, you know, let me talk less about Ramaphosa and talk more about other people. You see, like Zweli Mkhize, in the first instance, under normal circumstances, he ought not to have been on the ballot box. And if you push it a little further, even Ramaphosa would not have been on the ballot box, given the hovering clouds upon their heads. They wouldn't have qualified under normal circumstances. But that's what we have. I looked at Ramaphosa to the extent that he said, I could resign, and he wanted to resign over the Phala saga. You can say, yes, but it wouldn't be a big blow. Then you go to Zweli. The Zweli group really invested a lot in terms of campaign, and they nearly confused Limpopo province and the Northwest province. I commend them.
But Prof,
for the role they played.
yeah,
in
let me jump in here, because we can talk about the work that was done by Zweli Mkhize's supporters, Dr. Zweli Mkhize's supporters at this conference. But there's something to be said about the margins here. Dr. Zweli Mkhize, 1,897 votes, 2,476 votes for President Ramaphosa. That's almost 500 votes difference there. That's substantial.
Yes, but yes and no. In 2017, he nearly lost it to Nkosazana. It was less than 200, the difference. But in this instance, Zweli did well, by the way. Let's not take anything away. When we came here, where was he? Right? He was over around 1,000. It was less than 1,500. Look how close he has come. He lost by almost 500, whereas he was trailing by almost 1,000. Okay? But it makes no difference. At the end of the day, the world remembers who? Lionel Messi, and he doesn't remember Mbappe. The one who wins, that's the one the world remembers. And I'm saying, in this instance, I have a Lionel Messi, if you ask. And my Lionel Messi in this regard is Gwede Mantashe. He's the one who won it for the ANC.
And I mean, his numbers really quite telling there. I'm interested to talk about that. And you over the past 2 days have talked emphatically over and over again about the role that Gwede Mantashe has played in really getting the party together for the sake of this conference. Yeah. And 2,062 votes for Gwede Mantashe, only 280 for David Masondo. But there's something to be said about how close Stanley Mathabata really was, with 2018 votes. It's really just, I'm trying to do my maths here, about 40 votes difference there between Mathabata and Mantashe.
Yeah. No, Mathabata also did fairly well. But I wonder if he hasn't sown the seeds of destruction for himself. Because unless otherwise, but if what I'm picking up is correct, and I've engaged, right, with some of the people from out there, changing tech here when they had a mandate to go with the buffalo, for that he might pay a price. For that I've seen him sing and dance, by the way, right, and saying we go with Kabzela. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but you came here on the pretext that you had a mandate. And what are you telling us? That what the branches say doesn't matter. We, the leadership, can decide and change it. And then it takes me further to my hobby horse. If you change the Electoral Act, there will be no this so-called horse trading, because the constituencies won't have time to do some horse trading. If you come from Malamulele, that is it. You come from Duduza, that is it. When you come from Nyanga or Langa, there is not, they give you a mandate. If you want to change it, you must go back home. So let's change the Electoral Act so that good men and women of substance and character are getting elected, and they cannot do some horse trading at the expense of the people who have delegated them to represent them.
Professor Diffo, we've talked about chairperson. It's the same person sitting in that position. The president of the party, the same person. Massive difference, though, in the chair of the deputy president. Paul Mashatile, now the deputy president of the African National Congress, moving from Treasurer General, 2,157 votes in comparison to 1,858 for Oscar Mobiane. Also, a very tight race there. What do you think it was that Paul Mashatile had that got him there?
Look, I'm happy you're not a politician and I'm a teacher. That's all, right? A lot of wheeling and dealing took place. And I'm still asking myself, what role did Paul play to bring down Zweli Mkhize? Because he was Mkhize's deputy on the slate until last night, right? He was there. What happened in between? Was he genuinely there or not? Or did he do a DD, the cat? I shall leave it there.
SG of the African National Congress as of 2022 at the 55th National Conference of the party, Fikile Mbalula.
Mr. Fearfoko.
Mr. Razzmatazz. Let's talk a little bit about, 1,692 votes for him. That's quite incredible. Very close to Maswale at 1,590. Is he ready for this position?
What he has, and you can't take away from him, is the organizational ability, skills and experience And he's one of those, just like Mantachi, who understands the dynamics of the ANC. And I think he can acquit himself well in this role, but he tends to be overly excited. He's like a rough diamond who will have to be managed and guided, but I think he can do well.
Nomvula Mokonyane, first Deputy Secretary General, known to many as Mama Action. Do you think we're going to see some action from Mama Action in this position?
Well, she has the spirit. She has the spirit just like Mbalula.
I wanted to talk a little bit about this, because as you talk about the spirit that she has just like Mbalula, what you have seen for sure is Fikile Mbalula in the run-up to the local government elections really leading the electioneering for the party, something that Mokonyane is really quite good at, and one could argue that Marupene Ramakgopa also very good on the ground. Is this a party that is able to perhaps strengthen itself with these people at the helm for 2024?
Yeah, for the party they will do well. For the country it's another thing, right? But I think the mix is quite good and the experience. But Naledi, where were these guys that we are talking about on the first day? And what were they doing? Where were they? What were they doing? Paul was there, right? Was not there. Where was Gwen? Where was Mama Action? They worked very hard. They were missing in action when it mattered most. A bit of research there, that would be interesting for scholars and other things. But ultimately, they got the ultimate prize. Whatever they were doing there, they did it well. Because they were prepared to forego everything and anything. The Secretary General ought to have been there at the opening of the session. But the Buffalo and Lionel Messi, they were ready to let them go, to battle it out with N3. And then it has yielded the results. Yes, those who lost, I take they will be magnanimous enough and embrace the victors. But there's neither a victor nor a loser. It's just the same party. If they can just appreciate that a limping ANC is not good for the country. A divided ANC is not good for the country. Can they just accept this and embrace each other in my interest, in your interest?
You've talked, Prof, about how this is a very heavy Gauteng top 7 for the party. In terms of provinces, which one do you think is the biggest loser?
In all this?
Yes.
Yeah, you're taking me back to a set statement made then, and I'm trying to allude to that indirectly when I say I would have loved a greater representation. You know, Jacob Zuma once said, look yourself in the eye, my young boys and girls in KwaZulu-Natal. For the first time in the history of the ANC, there is no Zulu person in the executive. Do we have one today? Whatever I'm saying, I do not know, but I would have been happier with a greater representation across the 9 provinces and across, tribalism is the greatest enemy in Africa. And if you can contend with that fairly early in time, all the better.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to find one, and we don't have one in the top 7. It's an interesting point. Can we talk about the Treasurer General?
Right?
You said earlier that you would have liked to have seen Gwen Ramakgopa in the position of Deputy President. She is going to be the Treasurer General. And that is a very difficult position to hold, because we're talking about a party that last year has had massive issues with the staff of the party going on strike because they have not had their salaries paid. The balance sheet of the ANC is not an easy one to hold.
Yeah, no, agreed. And let me just finish that earlier
Please,
thought.
go ahead.
You know, I heard Ramaphosa even on the first day saying the ANC is more divided. And I'm saying it's not only divided, it's less representative. Look at the top 7 that you have. Is there an Indian? Is there a colored? Is there a white person? That is not the ANC of the founding fathers of 1954 in Kliptown. I leave it at that. The ANC that is going to be led financially by Gwen Ramakgopa, whom I would have loved to have as a president, and then maybe bring Mbalula or Mokonyane into this space. They are almost bankrupt, and they are no longer attracting people to invest in the organization. The tenderpreneurs who benefited from this behemoth called the ANC have walked away. And those are the people I blame. They are billionaires who never sweat for what they have, but they can't support their own organization to the extent that it cannot even pay the salaries. Yet they know how they made their millions and billions. Sorry, sorry, and sorry.
Let's go back to the briefing that we had yesterday from Pule Mabe with Masina, with Mzwandile Masina, and they essentially in that briefing talked a lot about wanting to see younger representation in the party. Ronald Lamola having run for the position of deputy president, garnering only 315 votes. But you do have Maropeni Ramakgopa, 40 years old, 42 years old, in fact, born in 1980. The representation from an age point of view, right? Is this a party that's saying we're ready for succession?
Yes, the evidence at my disposal, I would say, yes. Let them build on it and going forward. It was a bit early for Ronald. I mean, in all fairness to him, right? He still need to be nurtured, and with time he will get there. But let it be many more Ronalds, right? And the Maropenis that they bring on board. And bring them, by the way, not because of age and gender, but because of their capabilities, because of what they bring to the table. We've had enough of gender. I have enough of BBEE. I've had enough of color. Let's just start to put meritocracy at the center of what they're doing. Gwen Ramakgopa, I'm speaking about her simply based on merit.
If we look though, Prof, I'm just noticing this data right now. Gwen Ramakgopa, 1,809 votes for position of Treasurer General. Pule Mabe, 1,652, Masina 281. If you had added Masina and Pule Mabe's votes, you might have had a very interesting result there, and that's something that we certainly will be analyzing. Let's catch up though with our reporters on the field as we bring you the results and the responses to the top 7 of the African National Congress. Natasha Piri standing by now.